When I first met this guest, he was a backpacker in Australia that was somehow still running festivals and events in his homeland, Germany. He has since moved to the mountains of Nepal, where he set up an oasis that runs retreats and workshops. He's also fallen in love and become a dad. This episode is as beautiful as the flicker of a flame. Hello, you free-spirited creative genius. Thank you for joining me on the best episode yet of Art on Fire. This is a connective podcast for participants of events that focus on arts, community, and self-expression. Join us on Patreon to become part of the group who are leading the direction of this podcast and to learn about a whole bunch of more cool events that are happening, including the Eclipse event in Australia in 2023. Anyway, today's guest, Gerrit Nicetoknow, is as free-spirited as the wind. He is such a bright, happy, and bubbly individual that his good vibes are truly contagious. He has been all about vibes for a long time now, starting out in the party scene. Gerrit set up regular parties in Germany with friends and watched the party grow naturally into large events over time in a few years. His free-spirited nature allowed him to leave his homeland, to travel, despite having a good thing going on. But his passion and commitment kept him in touch with his crew even while on the road, so he could continue co-creating those events from abroad. Those events were focused around good vibes and parties, and since then he has just kept at it and got to higher vibes, both physically and spiritually. He now finds himself living in the mountains of Nepal. There he fell in love with the sound of singing bowls and became masterful of them under the tutelage of locals who have been using the instruments for thousands of years. His desire to share all those high vibes led him to setting up workshops and retreats called Sound of Himalaya. He's also a new father, and he's also now living in this wonderful new country, which I'm excited to chat with him about more. This guest's life is truly as unpredictable as that of a genius. Which is why I'd like you to join me in the Genius Ignition System. This is a little process we do before every one of these guest shows that when you do it, I guarantee you 100% of the time, you will take away something huge from the show for yourself personally. And here's how it works. I need you to rub your hands together. I mean you, wherever you are, rub them together, unless you're driving. Rub them together, keep them rubbing together, and in a moment's time, we're going to do a countdown, a simultaneous clap, and a declaration. 3, 2, 1... I've touched a genius. There's a declaration. Remind yourself of it. Now let's get on with the show. Welcome to the show. How are you, Gerrit?
Thanks, brother. I'm very good. How about you, brother?
Oh man, I'm really good. I'm really good. I'm really thrilled and pleased to be doing this with you. It's really nice to reconnect with you. We managed to reconnect just briefly on the phone to share this idea after, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years not really talking. And I've loved following little snippets of your journey, understanding what crazy adventures you've got up to next. And I thought, man, why don't I just put this whole conversation as the first international Zoom guest on the podcast? Because, man, it'd be so fun to do it this way. And that way I can have a cool little chat with you anyhow. So thanks, man. Thanks
you too, brother.
Yeah.
Very, very good to hear from you. Like you said, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And very glad to catch up. And thanks for inviting me on that podcast. And I'm excited for that chat with you, brother.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to start with maybe where we were hanging out last. So we were living together in a beachfront house in Cottesloe, a bit of a crack house, like a pretty simple house. May have been haunted, may not have been haunted. We were living together in a beachfront house in Cottesloe. You were living a really super, lovely, happy backpacker life, and you were partying. But you had some gig going on in Germany that I never really quite understood what it was that you were doing or how you were doing it. You touched on it a couple of times. Can you finally fill in that blank? What was going on there?
Sure. So basically, I as you may know, I worked for a decade as a DJ back in Germany, and how that sometimes goes, you get those first gigs going at college parties, at high school parties even, when you start in early, and then to the first clubs, and you get your first jobs and gigs on the weekends, and eventually those clubs and venues, if they like you, if they like what you're doing, then they start asking you those things like, hey, you want to organize the whole party? And so you basically give it a name, you start promoting it, you start building up the whole concept basically to bring in people into those clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what I ended up doing, from that simple DJ gigs all over the place to organizing the events and actually booking other artists as well for those parties. And yeah, eventually we got into certain rhythms, like monthly events, like every second Saturday there's, for example, the Crybaby Club or something, one product we had, or the Safari Beats party or whatever, and yeah, so I managed to basically set that parties up, and they were like kind of running by themselves after a few years of hard work and trying to get a name and an image out. And that gave me the freedom to build up a good team, people of trust at the time, to manage the whole thing. And I would be able to go abroad and like live that dream of traveling. Like I always wanted to go abroad. I kind of like lived the DJ dream back home where I was born, but I always wanted to go. Like an inner voice was always calling me to explore the world and just take a backpack and nothing else. So that gave me the freedom to actually do that. And Australia, where we met, brother, was one of the first stops on that travel journey, basically. So I still had those events lined up every month in Germany while I was actually abroad in Australia. And as you maybe remember, I even worked in that Italian restaurant serving pizzas and pasta.
Yeah, you were always like a confusing person for me, because you had such, wonderful, great free spirit, but then you were also like somehow doing extra things on the side as well. And I was like, how is he doing this? I do want to get into travels, because I know travels has opened up awesome things for you. But before that, my mind's still not at ease with the Germany situation. Just want to learn a couple more things. What kind of DJ were you? What city were you in? What kind of clubs were you performing in, etc., etc.? What was your style of music then?
Yes, my style of music then started out with classical hip-hop, reggae, and dancehall. Yeah, at the time, it was also with vinyl, still LPs, turntables. I learned it from scratch. And at the time, it was still very common in clubs to have DJs with vinyls. And also at the time, genres were still very separated, very different, the music scene at the time. So dubstep, hip-hop, reggae was kind of like a scene at the time, just like as the indie scene or the techno scene. That was all very separated at the time. I feel like that all mixed a little bit up nowadays. So that was basically the field, or like the theme of the parties, the genre that was I was playing.
What city were you in?
Yeah. I'm from a tiny village of 800 people living there. Probably more cows than people. But
I can picture it already. I'm seeing the Sound of Music in my head at the moment. I know that's Austrian, but similar landscape, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Similar landscape, except no mountains. Like I'm really from a flat part of Germany.
Okay.
It's also quite funny.
Yeah. Lots of cows and some people.
That's it. And the next city was Göttingen. Göttingen is a like kind of university town of like 150,000 people. Quite interesting about this town is that it only runs on its university, kind of, so every third person in that town is a student. So people are very young. Yeah. And so it's a tiny place, but full of party.
Yeah, I've lived in a town like that when I did exchange to America, and they're really great towns. Yeah, they're really beautiful towns to be in, because everyone's young, everyone's studying, everyone's fit and healthy, or there's a lot more fit and healthy people, and that's it. Yeah, that's really cool. So that's the place where you started your party area. And
yes. That's where I started out, and it's quite funny because this town is a very unknown place in a way when you speak of artists and musicians. But a few famous musicians actually are all coming from that same area. So there's something in the soil.
Definitely. Raising some musicians.
Yes. Yeah, like some people like other DJs who made it big, like Oliver Koletsky, for example. Ben Böhmer comes from there. Monolink, all this kind of guys. Milky Chance. They're all guys from that area. Started out with college parties. Like kind of village parties almost. Yeah. And then into the big cities and getting in touch with labels and famous clubs, and life changes. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, awesome. Good to have that clarified a bit. I've got one weird cultural question that just got in my head. Was like, you were saying that you were running these parties, and I think you called one of them Safari and you called one of them something else. What was it? It was the name of the events you'd mentioned?
There were many formats and parties. The ones which ran the longest time was like Kill Your Idols, which was in the end in a kind of dubby indie mix of a party, and then Beat Safari, where we basically, like people in Germany, they're always seeking the summer and the beach. So we kind of like made this whole safari thing, and like we kind of like put inflatable palm trees and boats and swimming pools into clubs, and like made that whole holiday vibe, even in the winters.
were your events names in English? Like, was your event called? It was in English. Okay, so in Germany, a lot of the marketing for parties is in English, despite being to native German people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting.
This,
so I'm
very much
just,
in English. Yeah.
I'm just learning something there. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's the same with the music. I mean, there's also a big local music scene in Germany, just like in many other countries. But of course, primarily it's like the English productions. In fact,
yeah. Anyway, so you're a German DJ who became a German party producer, who was then living in the spare room in the house with me in Cottesloe while still running parties in Germany, just being a scallywag, free-spirited traveler who was serving pizzas. And then now you're in Nepal, right? Like, how did you get to Nepal, and what the hell is going on?
Yeah, so basically, how did I get to Nepal? I finished up my year of travel in Australia. I was on that work and holiday visa thing, which is quite common. Lots of Europeans do that. And as you may remember, after my time with you in Cottesloe, after my pizza job, I left with that magic bus, so-called, with a bunch of other backpackers, and we drove up the west coast of Australia, and then finished up the loop, and actually surrounded Australia all the way down to Melbourne, and then through the north, and then flew out and went to Asia, continued my backpacking travels there, and eventually ended up in Nepal. Some people just told me about it. I was never really into Nepal or something. They just said, like, on the road, I think it was in Indonesia or something, met some people who recommended Nepal as a very beautiful place to visit. So I intended to go, and then that was in 2015, I think, not sure. There was a big earthquake in Nepal, and I was kind of hesitating, should I go or not? I decided to go. Turned out to be a very crazy experience, because everybody was going out of the country because of that earthquake that happened just before. And I was pretty much the only foreigner, I think, at the time, wanting to go to Nepal. Everybody wanted to cancel their travels.
Yeah.
But I felt the urgent need to go. And so I went, and it was a chaos. It was like there was no gas supply anywhere, electricity shortages. It was very big, like
and that's in the capital of Nepal?
The capital was also affected by it, the capital of Kathmandu. The epicenter was in the mountains, up in the mountains. Yeah, yes.
So it was Kathmandu that had no electricity then when you arrived, or?
Yeah, partly. Not everywhere, but partly electricity shortages. The worst was actually that the gas was completely out for 3 months in the whole country.
Like
So everybody
gases
started
and
cooking
gas
on
for houses
fire again,
or
which
gas?
is amazing.
Yeah, so gas for
Yeah,
houses.
yeah, gas for houses, like the daily cooking,
Yep.
basically happens on gas here in the houses as well.
Yep.
So for 3 months, the whole nation switched to cooking on fire again.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was amazed by the spirit of the people. Something like so dramatic happened to them. It's also the earthquake country #1, by the way, on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
The mountains are still always in movement. And yeah, like I was impressed how they took that situation. Like very, very high spirit up here, I would say. And I went out into the mountains to volunteer, to basically help rebuilding villages with a bunch of other people. There were lots of German organizations, French, Swiss, all kinds of stuff. And we were up there for 6 weeks. 6 weeks up in the mountains on like higher than 4,000 meters elevation. And yeah, like working hand in hand with the locals, trying to like clean up that mess, and like give them kind of hope. We were kind of thinking like, okay, we have to like go there and emotionally support them, but that was absolutely not the case. I was really surprised how they were just looking forward. They were not really, I mean, obviously they were also grieving and everything, but they were like kind of really believing in that reincarnation, and that their loved ones are just now, yeah, with them on another form of life. It's really, you can really feel that in the culture here. It's beautiful in a way. Yes, so I fell in love with the people, the spirit, the mountains. It's one of those countries which never really developed that much. You still have nature here as #1. Kind of, I like that in Australia too. You have that wilderness to it. So is Nepal as well. And here's where the jungle meets that 8,000 meter high peaks. That's quite incredible. We have in the south of the country, we have rhinos and tigers and leopards and elephants. And it's like hot as India. And then just 100 kilometers up north, you have the highest peaks on Earth. Yeah, it's a very, very unique place on Earth, geographically speaking, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Himalayas,
And
big mountains.
big mountains.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was here for 5 months the first time. Basically, finished up that volunteering and then backpacked through the country. And then I kind of made that a routine, a ritual kind of, a treat for myself. And I said, every year from now on, I'll go back to Nepal on that travel road, and I do 1 month where I go out into those mountains, switch off the phone, and just walk. Yeah. And yeah, that is really one thing I like to recommend to everybody to do. If you like mountains, if you like activity, like physical, like trekking, this is something, yeah, you should do once in a lifetime. It's a very, very unique experience being out there, totally disconnected from that man-made world. And it's really nourishing for the soul. And it's a meditation in itself.
Yeah, I know it. I'm always looking for those kinds of experiences. I haven't ritualized it for myself. I haven't made it a thing that I do every year, and I haven't managed to do it for a long period of time, as in like 1 month at a time for a while now. But my gosh, do I love those experiences? And you're making me question why I haven't made it into my own life ritual at the moment. It's like, why aren't you doing this every year for 1 month? It is really beautiful when you're doing those kinds of things, and you're going to Nepal, and you say, you're going for a walk through the mountains. What's your method of doing that? Because Nepal has endless organizations that help people have those kinds of experiences. Are you just going into a town and walking, or are you teaming up with other locals? Are you meeting other travelers, or are you just like, what's it actually like for you to do that? And are you still doing this for 1 month a year at the moment now that you live there?
Yes, so I have to be honest, I skipped it for 2 years. Why? Why? I will come back to that later.
Okay,
I'm
good.
sure that question will come up.
Yeah.
Family
Yeah.
circumstances, everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I definitely intend to pick it up again,
Yeah.
and I have to. It's just like being wild again,
Yeah. Yeah.
at least for a month.
Yeah.
Being at the source where
Yeah.
we are all from, in a way. Yeah, and so how you basically do that? Very, very. So one of the things to know about Nepal is it is 100% safe. That is a
Mhm.
wonderful thing. So you can like go anywhere, even if you are a woman traveling solo. You don't have to worry of anything. Like here in the Buddhism, Hinduism culture, it is very peaceful, and especially Nepali people are very, very helpful and happy people. And you can just come here and choose a trail. As you said, there are endless trails. Some are very famous, just as the Everest Base Camp Trail, for example, which is just as famous as the Machu Picchu in Peru.
Mhm.
So those are stunning experiences, but you share them with hundreds of people in the high seasons.
Mhm.
But there's also side trails everywhere, and really good old native trails where you also can be completely by yourself, and you just walk from local mountain village to village. Let's say there are around 4 to 6 hours walking apart, those villages.
Mhm.
You walk across those valleys up and down. You also have to get a map still. GPS and Google Maps doesn't work up there.
Mhm. Yep.
So you set yourself up with a little hiking map, but the trails are really easy to do. And as I said, the local villagers, they're always happy to point you out on directions or even walk some path with you. And it's very easy to do. And it's a very phenomenal experience. And I've done a lot of hiking around the world in all kinds of countries and continents. And here it's kind of still this freely walking, there is like it's just endless. You just walk from village to village, and it's an authentic experience.
It sounds
Now when
beautiful,
you
and I
go,
want to do it.
yes, yeah, we got to do it, brother.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
come and visit for sure. Now you have to know that once choosing the Everest trail or the Annapurna trail, which are the most known here, it also changed in Nepal over the last, let's say 5-6 years, especially. Now you find even Wi-Fi in the guest houses up there, and those full automatic coffee machines,
Yep. Yeah.
which still a guy carried on his back up to the mountain, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can find those things there as well. So there's something for everybody in a way,
Yeah.
Like there's also very comfortable trails as you prefer.
Yeah.
That's good.
You're talking about the technology creeping into Nepal. It's so
Right.
at the moment it's 2022 as we're recording this. Do the kids have iPhones? Are they on TikTok?
They do. And a little fun fact, because you just mentioned the year we are in. Basically, in Nepal, we are writing the year 2078 right now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, cool.
Yes.
That's cool.
Totally different calendar
When
here.
did their calendar start?
I'm not 100% sure, brother. To be honest, it has something to do with around the Buddhist culture and certain Hinduism gods, but actually it's quite difficult to like get those informations out of the people, because here there's not this question of when, why, where, people not questioning here. They are just believing. it is a very different culture. So basically what I'm saying is, they were told, okay, we write this year, and you don't ask why. Such a contrast between the West and the East. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we can do some research and figure that out.
Yeah. Well, it does point to the way that Western mind kind of thinks about some things at the moment, for better or worse. There's a lot that's like, there's a lot of good that can be said about that, about being able to challenge a why and understand a why. And
Absolutely.
there's a lot of good things about understanding why. There's probably lots of times that we waste our energy asking why about things that really don't matter. and then there's probably
Yes.
lots of things that have happened in the world where we probably should have asked why and we didn't, right? So we all fucking know when the calendar was done, but when it comes to some significant thing that has way more impact on our life than what the calendar year is, we don't ask why about those things. So that's a bit alarming. Is there something when it comes to asking why that the Nepalese people are really good at asking that Westerners don't ask?
Well, they try, they try to answer questions. Obviously, tourists come here with a lot of questions, and they really try. But I also noticed something that sometimes they just give you a friendly, humble, and shy namaste, and avoid.
Yep. No, let me try ask that question again. I might not be able to ask it properly, but it'd be nice if I could.
Sorry.
Otherwise, we'll just go past it anyway. It doesn't matter. So the Western mind likes to ask why about when the calendar date happened, and the Nepalese mind doesn't care about that at all. Is there something
Right.
that the Nepalese mind loves to ask why about that the Western mind doesn't seem to care about at all?
That's a good question. Um, Let me think. I don't think I have a spontaneous answer on that.
Okay. Yeah, no problems. No problems. You did mention one thing before that, when talking about the differences of the way that they operate, you said that when you were there and there was this earthquake that happened and lots of people had lost their families, and there
Right.
was this grieving that was going on. You said that at the same time they were still kind of peaceful about it because of their understanding or belief about what's happened to them.
Yes.
One of the brands of Nepal, if you will, I know brand's not the best word, but one of the things about them is they're understood to be a highly spiritual people, people who really do have more understanding of afterlife and more understanding of unity with nature, or at least that's kind of how I perceive Nepal. It's
Yes.
a
Yes.
the more mystic, a higher place.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that just bring that up again, because you did mention this. You did say that they're kind of more chill with this. So I'm just curious if there's what other insights you have about their way of being that you find refreshing, beautiful, enlightening, valuable.
Yes. There's many examples. So yeah, you're absolutely correct in that picture what you have of them. There is a certain higher energy here where, I find anyways on Earth there's certain places that are just charged by nature, And
Mm.
so this here is one of those places, and people are highly spiritual just by nature.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even. It is kind of interesting because we speak of spirituality. We speak it out. We do spiritual practices and rituals and ceremonies, whereas here they would not even consider it spiritual. Because they're born in it. It's just the way of life and just what you do and follow. That's your culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they do that on a daily basis. Yeah, there is so much to explore here, from all kinds of different gods and goddesses which are worshipped every day,
Mm-hmm.
um, which are associated with different parts in life. For your well-being, for your ancestors, for those loved ones who pass away, for the safety in the house. There's a ritual for literally everything here, and that happens on a daily basis, mostly in the morning time
Mm-hmm.
and around sunset time now. And that happens even in cities like Kathmandu. It is quite interesting because it is also one of the most polluted places on earth. It is a chaos. And in the middle of this chaos, there's lots of belief, prayers, so-called spiritual practices, as we would name it. And here it's just part of daily life. And I really, really enjoy learning from that. I know I will never really fully be a part of it, I think, because I was just not born with it. But it's something very humbling. And to see people like that, it is very beautiful. that is how I picture we all kind of maybe lived life on Earth, you know, closer to nature, more in belief of God or different gods, and all of that. And so the result out of that is also that people are very faithful, and they're always they're moving forward. Yeah, they're never standing still, no matter what happens to them. And that is beautiful. Like, they really embrace the change in life, because also the nature is always changing around us here. Every year we have that monsoon season, which washes away the roads and mountains shifting, you know, in the sense of landslides and rivers overflowing. That is just normal part of life here. And so yeah, everybody's way in the moment. Yes, and embracing the change of every moment too.
And it might still be hard for you to comment. What are your observations of things like iPhones and Facebook and TikTok coming into the hands of the young people of Nepal? Are they going to rise above these very addictive programming devices? Or
that is an amazing question. Very good one, brother. Something I think about many times here, brother. It is alarming, very, very alarming, where you have, especially here, let's say the older generation, totally immersed in that natural way of life, you know, basically like people from the bush still, in a way. And the young generation is like completely going the opposite way, you know, as you mentioned, full on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, content creation all around. And it is very alarming how much the young people here are on that devices. It is just as much as in the West, if not even more. And I wonder myself about that sometimes, how much of this tradition will survive, you know, because it also goes in a way with all of that devices. I mean, I meet lots of young people here. Like we, for example, we live out in the mountain on 1,500 meters elevation. We don't have a road connection. We do have to walk like still 2 hours to get to the next shop or anything. So we live 100% sustainable in nature with the mountains and a small community. Now our community is like getting older and older, and no young people want to live that life, which is so interesting, because I have many people from the Western countries, you know, in the 20s, 30s of their life, which are very keen to come and live the way we live. But if you ask that the local Nepalis, almost no one in that age wants to live out on the farm. They want to experience the Western way of life.
They all want to go to a shopping center. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
They all want to go to, they all want some McDonald's and a Coke, and they fucking want to go to a show and get a Nike t-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the paradox of our time.
All the funny little jokes. We're making lots of content for good jokes, though. Like, you know. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is alarming. Let's see where it will take us. They have a big influence here, those companies of social media and internet.
Let's park that one. We're not gonna work out our way out of that bind in this conversation. It's just probably good to always laugh at ourselves and be aware of it. But so you've gone to Nepal, and then somehow you've fell in love with singing bowls.
Yes. I came across two brothers, which were like gurus, as we call here, like teachers of those instruments, of singing bowls and sound meditations. Now, what they do here is a very ancient technique. They call that the Vedic sound healing, basically sound meditation, because it comes from the Vedic culture, which is thousands of years old here. In fact, all those words we use in yogic practices or meditation, like for example the word chakra. Those are all Sanskrit words. Sanskrit is an old native language of this type of tribal people, the Vedic people. And so the Vedic culture is still very present in the Himalayas, in Nepal, also in India partly. And I came across that Vedic way of sound meditations using singing bowls and was fascinated by it. Yeah, I really fell in love with it, but was not really like thinking, okay, I want to like start doing this now to people. Yeah, I want to, like, this was all like kind of, I came across it, had some interest in it because it's music, obviously. And that was it. And then I left Nepal, continued my travels, and returned, for that routine walk here in Nepal the year after, and came across that brothers again. And the second year they met me, they said, we want to show you that, and we want to teach you this, because they basically think that I would be good in doing this.
Can I speak English? So just logical stuff.
Sure.
They can speak English, yeah?
Yes, they can speak English.
Okay, cool. Yep.
Yeah, and they taught me basically what they do and their knowledge and everything. I kind of had a feeling they see something in me which I don't see myself at that point, and was exactly like that. So I followed, I just embraced their teachings. I went with the flow, and started out giving those to people who seek out sound meditations just here on donation base in a beautiful park by the lake. We have a beautiful lake here near the mountains. And I was starting giving that in a public park to people. Just like whoever wants to join and experience. And in that way, I got my practice on people. And so I was able to get feedback from them. And with time over the years, it just all evolved. And actually, I got the chance to share this with people all over the world. I went to Europe to work with sound meditations in different yoga studios and wellness festivals. I did that in South Africa. I did that here, obviously. And it was hilarious because I kind of like moved out of that DJ being parties, making people dance, to now make them go within and to meditate. It's kind of like two very extremes. And even being in those yoga studios and doing those events around sound and vibrations and meditative practices, I found myself again in events, like putting those events together with people and music related. So I think it just never leaves.
Yeah. just a really different style of event.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and then I came across many countries with that. Met a lot of people, had the chance to build a network of many beautiful souls who are into consciousness and conscious practices, breathwork, yoga, meditation, women's circles, any kinds of ceremonies. And so eventually decided, when all of that pandemic hit in the world, I decided to move to Nepal, kind of permanently move to Nepal as well, and to move my teachings and those sound meditations into the mountains here, where it's native to, where I learned it from, also to close the cycle, to give back to the land, and offer it up here to people. And so I came with that intention, and that's why I also so strongly believe in the energy up here. I came with only that intention as a traveler with my backpack back to Nepal, and what then happened was just magical, because that intention, I think, was exactly what was written for me or something. Because I came back, and firstly I I met those lovely family up in the mountains, which had a homestay of 1 room at the time. It was in the most amazing location you can imagine, up the hill with panoramic views on the highest mountains on earth, purely surrounded by nature. And yeah, became friends with them, and they liked the idea I had. And so we built that place together, which we are now in,
Mm-hmm.
our kind of farm and meditation place
Mm-hmm.
with nothing. We started out from nothing, and it was just like, yeah, perfect synchronicity. And now we have like 7 guest rooms and yeah, several, yeah, like a whole setup, which is beautiful. And people come from all over the world to learn about that and to carry those sound meditations into the world and become practitioners for that as well. And yeah, so this idea of moving up here and realizing a special place on earth from where I can move forward those teachings and sound meditations, realized within 2 years only. Yeah? And on top of that, I met my now wife and mother of our son.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, wow, it was all like simply aligned. And I think out of that experience, I can say when you are aligned with your kind of vibes, your vibrations, and your purpose, and you manifest it literally. We are the creators of our reality to a certain extent, obviously. Um, yeah, right place, right time.
Oh man, there's so many things that I want to ask and go back to, and I just don't know which is the right next question. I wanted to talk about your wife. I wanted to also wanted you to share the story about the naming ceremony. I'm also curious about those 2 Vedic gurus. Are you still in touch with them? And I also wanted to ask if you knew anything about the Vedas. So now that I've put all 4 out, or if you could teach me about the Vedas. Now that I've put all 4 out, is there one that you feel like you'd like to delve into?
Yeah, let's pick the Vedas. I guess personal love stories are everywhere.
Yep.
So let's give our listeners something interesting of
Yeah,
the
cool.
culture here.
Yeah. No, so good. Yeah. Let me ask the question again. I've heard of the Vedas. I've heard of Vedic, but really I don't know what that means. I've also heard of Ayurvedic, and Ayurvedic is like a
Right,
trendy
right.
thing going on in the West at the moment. I'm not sure if you know, for all the wellness community, there's Ayurvedic is become a new
Oh
buzz.
yes,
It's become a new buzzword. What is it? What is Vedic, Ayurveda, Vedas, gurus?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, basically, Ayurveda obviously comes from the Vedic. It means basically the a healthy way of life, you know. And it is
Ayurveda
basically,
means a healthy way of life.
yeah, it is
Okay,
the
cool.
healthy way of living, of
Yep.
being.
Yep.
And yeah, it is basically an old knowledge which is passed on for generations from that Vedic people. This is basically like a native tribe of the Himalayan region. Like in India and Nepal, they have a caste system, which is certain genetic groups even. Because of the remoteness of the mountains, people just never really mixed up, you know what I mean? So there are certain castes here, they are known for higher spiritual knowledge. And the Vedic were like one of them, or kind of the ones who kicked that all off like
Okay,
about
so
5,000 years
The
ago.
Vedic is they're actually a caste. They're a caste of people.
Yeah, at a
Aha.
sense, it's
Yep.
it's a certain caste, it's a certain heritage,
Yep.
and also a certain language, the Sanskrit language,
Yep.
which is a very, very interesting language. It's just like old scriptures which hold a lot of wisdom from back in the days. And as I mentioned earlier, all yogic practices are based on that knowledge from the Vedas. And Ayurveda is the same in the sense of nutrition, you know, in a way. So it's like it tells us a lot about certain foods we have to take in. It tells us a lot about I think in the West they call that maybe human design or something. I don't know. Here they put you in certain elements. They work with astrology as well, and they tell you what type of person you are, if you're like connected to the fire element, the water, earth element, or the wind. And accordingly, you should manage your diet. Yeah. So, for example, if they say you are like, they figure out you are a fire-related person, not really good to eat spicy foods, for example. Yeah. To simplify that whole thing. And so it's a whole knowledge around a healthy way of life for each individual. And yeah, I think it's a very, very powerful way of life. Yeah, it proved to be very, very powerful. All the yogis, the famous yogis, those who impressed us all, they were all following strictly those Ayurvedic way of life practices. Yeah. Yes.
And are the Vedas a book, or is the Vedas the tenets or the philosophies of or the guidelines of the Ayurvedic way of life, or what are the Vedas?
The Vedas are basically those tribes. You know, I mean, they have
they're the tribes.
Scripture.
Yeah.
They have scriptures which they put down.
Yeah.
Mostly they are known as these people you picture sitting in a cave, meditating for like forever, you know, until enlightenment. Basically, those people. Were this. Yeah. I mean, nowadays there are very few left of them. Hard to find. Back then it was a very common thing here, just like you had the Mayas in Mexico, Central America, South America, the Incas. Here you have the Vedas, you know. Yeah.
So can you share any experiences of connection you've had with a particularly profound Veda?
Yes, I met a couple of those people still belonging to that tribe. Unfortunately, I didn't interact much with them. Like, they're also kind of like, a little bit like holy appearances. People don't interfere with them unless they come to you out of respect. So yeah, but just being in their presence, you can tell there are people way connected to the land forces and to the spiritual realm and world and to our ancestors. And like there are certain practitioners. I never went there personally, but in my wife's caste culture, it is very common to go to those people in an astrology sense, to go there and also have answers about your life and things like that. How we seek astrology, they do that here too. And of course, another huge part of the Vedas is the healing aspect. The whole thing, what we call energy work of Reiki, they do certain things here as well, and combined with those diets. Certain Ayurvedic foods and plants. I mean, India, for example, there's a huge Ayurvedic culture. It has been always the land of the herbs and spices, you know, ever since humans are around. And here are also certain native plants which are really powerful healing plants. Ashwagandha is one of them, for example. A very, very powerful plant here, native to Nepal in India. It's an adaptogen, working very intelligently in the body. Can highly recommend that for everyone to have a look into that. Those plants are with us for thousands of years, and they can help us really moving away from that pharmaceutical kind of way of life. Yes, they can help with many diseases.
So you've connected with a lot of the traditional ancient knowledge of the Nepalese people.
Yes,
a lot with and you're doing a lot of that now with the singing bowls. And you have this oasis, this retreat that you've started called Sound of Himalaya.
Right.
Who is that for in particular, and what are people who come to Sound of Himalaya looking for, and what are you wanting to share with them?
Yeah, so basically Sound of Himalaya is the latest project of us, and it comes from my heart. Yeah, it's really like, as I was mentioning earlier, I bumped into this family out in the mountains
Mm-hmm.
and built that from nothing. Yeah, so this family, this family is actually from that caste, from that old caste, and they are people who live a very nature connected life out there. Yeah, and I learned so much from them. And I thought, wow, I think there are many people in the world like me who want to see that, who want to really see people out from any touristic experience, natively living here in the mountains, in harmony with nature, plowing the fields too with the buffalo. Those people have never been to a doctor in their life. They get like 96 years old or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And it is just fascinating to see. Like, I always picture our ancestors living the same way, and we live in a modern time where this is hard to find in the world. I guess you have to go into the really deep jungle of the Amazon to find that, or up to the mountains in the Himalayas.
Yeah, yep.
So we really have a gem there of people. Yeah, they're also so pure. And I think people who like to experience this, and to be in one of the most beautiful places on earth, speaking of nature, when liking mountains, for them we are the right place. We are also nothing luxurious. Yeah? We have like very basic rooms built out of wood, simple mattresses, nothing luxurious up there, but comfortable. But our luxury lays in the garden and the environment. Every food we produce up there ourselves. Everything from every rice corn to the butter we make from the milk of the buffaloes, and everything is made from the land. And then that is a very big difference in well-being,
Mm-hmm.
And that is something I learned there from them. And this project is kind of my way of giving back to them as well. So whoever comes up here, and we are a very affordable place, that goes back to them, so you're really supporting a local family with that in a purely natural environment. And for what I do, those sound meditations using singing bowls, it is also a phenomenal place, because you have absolute silence up there, only bird sounds around, and a free view on that highest peaks on earth that kind of puts the right spice into the soup.
Yeah.
And makes it a very powerful experience, actually. And for who seeks it out, is so basically like nature people who love to connect with nature, with farming, with that whole sustainability way of life, who are also interested to learn about that. And also obviously for those who want to learn of sound meditations, who want to maybe bring that even to Australia. We even had like people coming from, I think, Brisbane and Sydney, and also one person from Fremantle, actually, from Frio.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I should chase them down. Yeah.
They took it to Australia.
Yeah.
That way of sound healing here.
Yeah.
And
you're
like,
teaching the locals sound meditation techniques.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, I'm the one who gives the treatments, who teaches that to people who are interested, and the local family, and my brother, his name is Santos. He runs the whole guest house part, So we're kind of like having a very beautiful thing going on. Like, he's the one who, and his mother is still like preparing the food in the kitchen on wood fire, like the real deal, but very delicious.
Yeah. Is your now wife also from that family?
My wife is from a different family, from a different part in Nepal. It's actually from the east, more near to Mount Everest. We are here more in the west of Nepal, in the jungly part of it.
So how did you guys meet?
We met basically here just eye to eye. you know, like when you're like with your group of friends and there's someone with their group of friends and you're like, I don't know, like walking around lakeside, hanging out, eyeing each other, yeah, meeting, the vibrations are meeting. But as Nepali culture is, it is not like how we know that from Europe or in Australia. Here you usually don't ask people out for dates. You know, it is a very shy culture in that sense. And for my wife's case, it was even still in that way that I had to actually go to her parents and ask them for permission, kind of to be with their daughter. Yeah. So we actually the first year we only communicated through the phone. Yeah. And kind of like that. Yeah. And then, yeah, basically, I mean, to be honest, we secretly met.
Yeah, it's probably the way that all of the even local couples are doing it. They're all probably secretly meeting too. Yeah,
exactly, without the parents knowing.
The first, when you went to ask the parents, like, what were you asking for? Were you asking just to spend time with her, or like, what is that? What is that first ask?
Yeah, that first ask is basically you already decide if you want to be with that woman or not, you know. Otherwise, you don't go there and ask.
Yeah.
And then you.
Bit of a catch 22 though, because you weren't supposed to be spending any time with that woman. So, like, how do you?
I know. It's kind of. I think everybody knows. You know, everybody knows, but you kind of have to match the culture standards. I don't know. It's kind of funny. Because people will figure it out just as you say. It was basically like it was a very awkward situation for me, you know. I was very nervous, and going over there and said like, I really like your daughter, kind of thing, you know. And actually it was very easygoing. It was all in my mind, you know. I was like kind of like very nervous and, oh my God, what they're gonna do, they're gonna check me out, interview me. But no, it was not like that. They welcomed me with a tika, what we do here traditionally. Maybe some people know that. It's like this red color we put on the forehead, basically the third eye, where the third eye chakra sits. That's a very traditional thing in Nepal and India. They welcomed me with that, and then I was already part of the family. Their request was to me to get married. That was the request of the parents, which is also in the culture here. Like normally, people are not here in relationships as we in the West do. When you are together here, you also marry. It is still like that here in Nepal.
So that first ask is almost like you're actually asking. You just got to dive straight in the deep end. It's like you're asking to be with her, but then essentially, if you want to be with her, you got to be married. So you immediately have to ask to. You got to go from zero to hero in one moment.
That's wonderfully put, brother. Yes, it's exactly like that. And it's very interesting. It's entirely different to how I was born and raised, but I kind of like it. It kind of speaks to me and to this commitment in a way as well of like maybe going through maybe a hard patch as well in a relationship. I see that in my own friends circles in Germany or overseas. It is it's quite a mess nowadays. Times of Tinder and stuff, you know.
We're definitely on a different end of the spectrum.
Right. But I feel like the kind of whole romance and the whole magic around it gets a bit lost in those applications. You know, nowadays you order food on that, and you order also your date on that. And that's kind of bizarre. I really like that traditional way here. In Nepal.
Boring logical question, but I just got to get it off my mind again. I've already asked it kind of before. Does everyone speak English in Nepal, or like how are you communicating with people?
Yes, surprisingly, Nepali speak incredible English. Like here, the government pushes very much in schools for English lessons. So you literally now meet a boy or girl of like 6-7 years old, and they speak English with you. It's so impressive. Like they speak better English than in any other countries, because of the tourism. Yeah, they know that is their main income of source of income. And other than that, Nepal is farming or tourism. Yeah, one or the other. And for the tourism industry, they all need to speak English. It's very impressive. Combined with YouTube, TikTok, and all these things, they're way educated in that sense.
Just want to go back to that the previous conversation about your experience with asking permission from the family. I did something different in my relationship with my partner Shari that I've never done in my life before, and it's so silly that I've never done it before, but I kind of feel like it's worth like chatting about. Is that I actually asked her I asked for consent. I asked if we could date, which I'd never done before. And like, it's so dumb that I haven't done before, but it was really, it was really great. It was really great.
It is,
just ask someone out, and then to be able to let that other person, she could have said no. She didn't. Thankfully, she said yes. But it made it so like simple and clear in my mind as to who we were for each other. Where in my past relationships, it was just kind of assumed because, you know, you've been together for so long and you're, you know, usually sexually involved with each other, that therefore you must be, but you never actually had the conversation. So, and something that's been bugging my mind is that I actually want to extend the asking, and I want to go and do what you did to go and ask her family. I want to go and ask her family, but it's such a funny conversation because it's just like, can I? So
I think it is wonderful, and I hear you, brother. I felt very, very the same. You know, I was so nervous and didn't know what to say and do, but in the end, it was such a natural thing to do. And it was good. Like you say, it feels good. It is with the right intention. You are very clear about your intention as well, and you're open about it. And
it makes that intention clear to everyone.
Yeah, with that, you know, and when you are that kind of brave, you know, you have to be brave for that. Then it can only go right, you know, it can only go the good way. You're in the good vibrations in that moment. Yes.
It's kind of it's a lost thing that people, I don't know, but people, maybe it's just me, but I feel like a lot of the world doesn't do that anymore. We don't ask each other for consent clearly in a nice sentence, and we don't ask the extended family for consent.
Very true. I mean, I've seen that for years working in the clubs and festivals, you know, like, I mean,
lots of non-consensual behavior going on in there.
Yes, I was always on stage seeing hundreds and thousands of people every weekend behaving in all the same ways. You know, it's quite interesting. And, you know, it's in that bars and clubs where drinks are spent, dance moves are exchanged, and then there's this expectation in the end of the night. And it's also awkward, you know, it is not the gentleman way anymore. And I'm really glad there are still gentlemen like you out there, brother.
In the Australian way as well, like especially amongst younger people in Australia, I felt that the way was always to literally avoid consent so much by getting yourself so plastered, and you're both so plastered that no one's really able to make consensual decisions anyhow, because you've just beat yourself down to some level of drunkenness that, you know, you can't really give consent because you're hammered. But a lot of Australian hookups happen that way, and it's like, you know, there was no way anyone could even say no because they were too far gone.
Yes.
Which is a bit creepy and sad when I think about it. But anyway,
it is. It leaves people with a certain emptiness, I think, and that is why also, like, like it's becoming that way of like almost consuming people, Whereas we have to be very careful. Speaking again of this topic, vibrations, I really learned a lot about those vibrations, and everything everything emits vibrations, yeah. Every living being, and we do so too. I mean, everybody knows that. Like if you walk on the street somewhere and someone looks at you and you turn around, and in that moment, you know, you meet that person's eyes because you felt that. Like even in quantum physics, we say that every object that is observed is affected, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we are that way, and we really need to become masters of our own vibration again. It's the same with those things when you say you are in a relationship for years, you know each other obviously long, and you say like something, what's wrong? And the person says nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know exactly that something is wrong because you sense that vibrations. And we are just like a radio station as well. And you know, you can really picture it as a radio where you can just tune in. And there are certain practices to work with that, you know, and to become a master of your own vibrations. I'm not saying you can then like attract anything you wish for in life, a sports car or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Some people may dream of. That won't work.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a certain way in life you can go for in that way of being aware of vibrations and your own vibrations especially. Because even if what we think, even if we just think it and we don't write it down or we don't say it, we still say it. The universe responds to that thoughts, you know, and so it's all just the reflection we get from that, in fact.
I guess my trip that I'm hopefully on the other side of and just coming out of at the moment. Hopefully I finally learned something. But I think my most recent trip was like, I keep getting caught up as to what a high vibe way of life should be like. And so because I'm in this, what it should be, I sometimes go against myself, which is now
Right.
really, it's actually really low vibe.
You don't sound like, brother.
Yeah, no, but it's a mistake. It's a mistake I think I've made a few times when I like, in my attempt to raise my vibes, thinking what a high vibe person must be like, I actually go against myself and try
Yes.
and disown myself or be someone who's not actually me. And when I do that, then I'm actually like in the opposite vibes of what I was attempting to go for, which is
Very beautifully said.
yeah.
I think many of us feel the same way, brother.
There's this pressure to always do something else. So you know, what are some of the practices that maybe you've sunk into a little bit more in this Nepalese chapter of life that you could share?
Yes. I think the easiest thing everybody can do to first of all become aware of those vibrations is when you spend time in nature. I mean, now in Australia, very suitable place for that. Yeah. You have a lot of wilderness there. You can just jump into your car, drive out a few hours, and you are in ancient places where it's untouched. So there's this very ancient vibration, those places holding that, and this is what you can connect with. So go out on the weekend, have a camping trip, whatever, you know, those kind of simple things. And don't sit by the bonfire and crack open one beer after another. like you know, let's take the time to feel the land's wisdom, you know. That is one thing I think everybody can do. Another thing specifically for my practices, to give you something for home, is the chanting. Yeah, chanting is what people here do every day. It is what throughout many cultures around the world, chanting is involved in praying as well. In the Muslim culture, for example, some people experience praying very loudly. People almost scream. That all has a purpose. The purpose is to set yourself into that matching vibration for the prayers to be heard, basically for the universe to receive your intentions. And so chanting is a very powerful tool everybody can do at home. I do that really myself. Whenever I feel a very negative emotion taking over me, is then you can do simple chants. The most famous one is Om. Basically, you start from very low to up with your voice, yeah, and you can just do that for yourself. This is not singing in that sense. It's basically like a humming, like those kind of things, yeah. And that is a very, very powerful tool to set yourself back into your natural frequency and vibration, and also to feel it. You feel the vibration through your chest.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the easiest tool accessible for free for everybody.
Awesome. Thanks for the share. Maybe after this conversation, you could send me because anyone who's listening who is interested might want to learn more. Maybe if there is a YouTube video you could point at, or a reference you could point at, I could put that on my website or on the show notes below, so people can link to that. It's a start. It's a start at least. On I had a wonderful mentor guru in my, I don't know, third or fourth last job. His name was Chi, and he was a super wise dude. And he taught me one thing about Om that I thought was really fascinating. He said Om is made up of three noises.
Yes.
And the three noises are the three noises that you could make if you had your tongue cut out. So
yes, exactly.
No tongue, you can still make those three vibrations. And the first noise, the R part, comes from the belly, and then the O part comes from the heart, and then the part comes from the head. And the vibrations actually exist in the three different parts of your body, and reverberate up. Yeah.
You actually learn some Vedic knowledge there with that guru.
I know that I knew this person instantly as a guru. He only opened his mouth for 5 seconds. Maybe he's not a guru for everyone else, but my goodness, was he a guru for me? Like everything that he said when I was ultimately profound. Probably to other people, he was a little joker. That was one of the other things that I actually probably loved about that experience, was like he's a small framed Malaysian man, right? And he's full of wisdom, but he's also a bit funny, and he's a bit faffy. And I thought he was just the wisest human ever, and I loved everything that he said. But I could also recognize how other people just couldn't care less about him. Right? And for me at that time, I had lots of things that I wanted to learn, and he had lots of things that he wanted to teach, and therefore it was this beautiful connection instantly, because
again, a vibrational connection. And the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher shows up.
He was that for me.
Exactly.
I love that dude. I want to catch up with him, but anyway, I'm getting distracted. So. Cool. All right. I think that was really cool. I think that's probably a really nice, like a little bit to end on, because you've shared something really cool.
Thank you.
Any more that you would like to say about Sound of Himalaya? I mean, we did touch on it. Is there anything else you'd like to share about, someone who might be interested in coming to Nepal one day? And I'd like to say that that's me. I would love to have a mountain in Nepal. I want to come. I want to come for a mountain.
Yes, of course.
I'm just waiting for the world to open up some of its doors where things are a little bit nicer. But yes. Anything else you'd like to say there?
Yes, I mean, I like to say that you must come, brother.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, for you, that's we're gonna commit to that. After all of that years, it would be my absolute pleasure to take you around here. Really, I would really.
I'd have such a good time, man.
Would fill up our both of our brothers' hearts, I think.
Yeah.
That said, anyone else listening to this also obviously welcome. Mm-hmm. And another side information, maybe, if someone visits the website of us, soundofhimalaya.com, there you see lots of photos. You can make yourself a picture of the place, and there are certain offers for retreats and stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I like to add that that this is not a must. Like, you can just contact us and come by. This is not a fixed price we ask for. for anyone to come. There's just an offer for, I think what's online there is like an 11, 12 days retreat, where the whole travel is organized for the group and everything. It's like a package. That's just a promotional thing. That is not the requirement to come to our place.
That's just a way to put out the invitation to the world in one form that it's most easily accepted.
Exactly.
But you're essentially just saying, just come.
Just come. Exactly. Just come, send us an email, forward you all informations you need. Because some I had in the past some people thinking they need to book that package to come to us, So I like to add, anytime
cool.
welcome.
Yeah, cool.
My home is your home.
All right. Hey, I would like to thank you so much, man. It was really beautiful to catch up with you, and I'm really stoked to hear your story. And I'm really grateful at the opportunity to try and share your story with other people who'd be interested in the beautiful things that you're doing. Thanks for offering that as well as a sharing, something that I can share.
Of course.
I've got a secret bonus question that I want to ask you in just a moment's time. Secret bonus question. So I'm going to say, let's say bye now, and I'm going to make that the end of this recording, and then I'm going to ask you secret bonus question. So bye, Gerrit.
Bye.
Okay. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Gerrit Nicetoknow. I'm looking forward to seeing him one day in Nepal or at some other cool place, like at a wicked event that is happening in Western Australia in 2023, which I talk about a lot on Patreon. Thanks to everyone who is supporting the creation of this content on Patreon. It's wonderful to be able to create directly for content for you without any middlemen, without any sponsors. I love working for you. I love working for us as a community without that junk and commercialization going on the side. For people who want to learn more about what's going on in Patreon, please visit Patreon Art on Fire to check it out. Full show notes, again, available at artonfirepodcast.com. Looking forward to seeing you guys on the next few episodes. We've got a real live version of Rick from Rick and Morty coming up. Keep up, strap up, buckle in. It's going to be fast. It's going to be high pace. It's going to be crazy. And then we've also got a live event, and by live I mean like an online live event via Zoom, where you guys can all come join us on this event, and we'll be having a meeting with all of the people who've been on the show so far, and just having a live catch-up get together. So tune into that as well. That is the podcast launch event. You can find that on Facebook. Much love to you guys, and I hope to see you all really soon.